Boogity boogity boo! It's 31 Days of Horror time again. This another Toronto After Dark retrospective. Because I saw them earlier. That's really not the correct use of that word. But this is what is the day? October 21st. So this is Monday, which makes it day 5. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Yeah, because it started on Thursday. So day 5 of Toronto After Dark. 2 movies today. And unlike before, it's not 1 o'clock yet. Or even 1 o'clock. Because normally it was 5 o'clock when I was doing these videos. I did not go to the pub tonight. So no water here. No need for it. I haven't been drinking. It doesn't mean I will not slur my words and make complete nonsense. Yeah, I don't really have an excuse this time, do I? So yes, today I'm working tomorrow, so I skipped out on the after party. 2 movies. I'm going to say both of them fit into my 31 Days of Horror, so they both count. The first one, the 7 o'clock show, was a film called Odd Thomas. Now, this movie has been finished for a while, but it's sort of been sitting on a shelf. And it's one of those films that, yeah, it shouldn't be sitting on a shelf. This is, that's the problem with this film. It's directed by Stephen Sommers, who you may know from such movies as The Mummy. Yeah, he's the guy who did those mummy movies. And it stars Anton Yelchin, who is currently best known, I guess, for Star Trek. And honestly, the film is really, really good. This is a film that could easily get a wide release if only it had some names behind it. Unfortunately, Anton Yelchin isn't a big enough draw. Stephen Sommers isn't a big enough draw. The fact that it's pulled from movies from Dean Koontz, or books from Dean Koontz, not a big enough draw. It's amazing that, unfortunately, you can have all these things going for it and it's still not enough to bring it to wide release theaters. It is the film had the highest budget of any of the films in the festival, and it shows. It is a polished film with gorgeous CG effects that are used properly. This is one of those films where, and I'm one of them. I will say it. I am one of those who will say, give me physical effects, traditional physical effects over CG any day. But walking through walls, you know what? It's a lot easier with a computer these days. Doing translucent ghosts and that stuff that really, it's like, you could do it. You could definitely do it using physical effects, but I don't, at least in my mind, I don't see any way of making it look nearly as good. The computer graphics in this film just meld beautifully. Like they fit into the scenes without any problem. They don't take you out of the scene at all. And you know, the film's got, it's got pretty much, basically, you know how you hear about Hollywood's got like a handbook, where it's got these rules of making the, you know, the perfect film. It's got to have a love story. It's got to have adventure, action. It's got to have like a dog. It's, you know, like all of these step-by-step things that the perfect movie has. Well, Odd Thomas essentially went through that and was, you know, just checking everything off. It doesn't have a dog, but it essentially went through everything. It was like, you know what, it is sort of like, I guess it's a paint by numbers. There's nothing new about this movie per se, and it doesn't really add to the genre at large, but the story is good. It's a good story, and it really is centered around this sort of well, the main character, Anton Yelchin, it's centered around him, but it's also grounded in terms of his, you know, the romantic relationship with his girlfriend, and their chemistry in the film is perfect. The dialogue between them is great, and both of their actings are spot on. It's perfect. It's hard to see anybody else in these roles. I'm not saying that nobody else could do the roles, but having seen them in this film together, it's almost like, you know what, that was perfect casting. I wouldn't have changed anything. I wouldn't put anybody else in this movie, and unfortunately, it ended up getting shelved because nobody could really market it, I guess, and so it's been sitting there. Or maybe there's some other reasons. I don't know. I don't know what the reasons why it never got put out there. But I would describe the film, basically it's if you don't know the Odd Tom, I don't know if they're called Odd Thomas, but he's the character in the Kuntz books, and I think there's a series of them actually. He can see dead people. You know, it's like the Sixth Sense. He can see dead people. The difference is that he actually listens to they don't talk, but he solves crimes and mysteries because of these dead people, and these ghosts actually. So that's what, you know, the story is about. Is he sees these ghosts and goes to help them and stuff, and it has this other little aspect of these creatures that I was mentioning, these CG creatures, that whenever they show up, it means there's something bad's going to happen. So it's sort of a premonition of sorts. So this film revolves around this major premonition. So there's going to be a lot of death happening in this little town that he lives in, and he's trying to stop it. And you know, that portion of the film, there's a lot of predictability in it. And a lot of what was going on outside of the ghosts and stuff. But even that's been done. I mean, there's a lot of Japanese movies that are very similar into that vein. Asian film in general loves ghosts, so that's not not unheard of. But it's the way I saw this was when I was watching this film, is it was the best movie pilot that was, a television pilot, the best television pilot I had ever seen, but it was a movie. It wasn't a pilot at all. And, which is disappointing, because I kind of want to, it's like I've watched the first episode this week, and I want to tune in next week and see what the Odd Thomas is going to do. And I won't be able to, because it's not a television series. And that's disappointing. Because I really enjoyed the film. And I would recommend it if you're more into mainstream films in general. If you like, the supernatural stuff that's on television right now. If you like your Doctor Who's and your Supernaturals and your Buffy the Vampire Slayer type stuff. If you're into that type of television, then Odd Thomas, watching Odd Thomas, you'll probably be in the same boat as me. Is the fact that you want it to be a television series. You want to see these adventures go on. But unless some kind of miracle comes about, I don't see that happening. So that is what I thought about Odd Thomas. The second film. Canadian film. Shot just locally, essentially. Is a film called Solo. Now it's scheduled to be released sometime first quarter in 2014. So, if you want to check it out, that's when you're going to be able to check it out. It's directed by, what was his name? Isaac Cravit? I don't know who he is. Never heard of him. And honestly, the cast, you're not likely to recognize most of them. It does have a man by the name of Daniel Cash in it, who, for some of you who are into the old, movies from the 80s and 90s may recognize him as being Private Spunkmeyer from the Aliens movie. He was also Lawitz in Nightbreed. The other person of note in that would be the main victim. In this case, Annie Clark plays the role, and if you watch, I think it's called Degrassi Next Generation or New Generation, she's on that. So if you're a fan of that, you'll recognize her right off the bat, and you may love the movie because of it. Essentially, what it is she, Annie Clark's character is going to work at a summer camp, and for some reason, this summer camp has a weird initiation of sorts, where you have to go off. They take you to this island and they leave you there, and you've got to camp by yourself for 2 days. Most camps that I know of, it's generally the opposite, where they want you to bond with your other counselors and staff at the place before the kids get there. And it's funny because the way they tried to explain it in the film was that he said, what did he say? He said that they do it because the parents like to know that their counselors have some camping experience. So if you survive these 2 days alone, you now have camping experience. And you're fit to look after kids, apparently. Anybody who's ever worked any type of summer camp or, kids camp of any sort knows that that's just ridiculous. But, whatever. It's the basis around this movie, and the reason for getting her to alone on an island where nobody's gonna basically come by and bother her, and then they can go about scaring her. Now it really doesn't do anything new. There is absolutely nothing new in this film. Person goes off, they're by themselves. They get told, spooky, scary ghost story. There's gonna be ghosts on the island. So, they wake up and they I don't know, they think somebody's outside. And so they're scared. And so they go look in the woods at night, shine their flashlight around, lots of tension. Oh, something's going to happen. Nothing happens. Let's go back to bed. So yeah, she starts getting a little freaked out, and she's getting freaked out at nothing. It reminded me a lot of Blair Witch Project, not in the way of the style and the look and all this, but just in the way that they're, we're out and we're camping and we're getting scared, but there's nothing there. But at least with Blair Witch, there actually was noises and you could hear stuff going on. In this one, it was just like, yeah, I think they were trying to play up the angle that she was kind of crazy. She was taking pills and seeing a psychiatrist, so hey, nobody's gonna believe the crazy girl. What is it in her head? Is it not in her head? What's going on? But yeah, it was such a bad red herring, because it wasn't really explored. Like, it was put there and the seed was planted, but it was never brought forth. And then you have the character who, she's getting scared and things are happening and she's finding things. She finds a doll. She's like, oh my god, there was a doll. It was a creepy doll. It must have been the ghosts. Sure. Yeah, that's a conclusion I would have come up with. Not that, maybe some of the camp counselors, are coming over and playing pranks on me. See, this is the whole thing. And if you go to a camp and everybody in the camp and, the owner of the camp and the person who runs it and all the counselors are all like, oh yeah, you're the new person. You have to go off to an island by yourself for 2 days and survive. And then some crazy stuff, you start getting scared and you start hearing noises and all this kind of stuff. I'm sorry, but if your first instinct isn't to think that these people are playing a prank on you, you got some problems. You're clearly way too easily scared. But that being said, the movie continues on, and I won't get into too much. But it's, yeah, things start. There's some creepy stuff that does happen, and it's mostly, real world creepy. And it gets to the point where the film gives you 3 male actors, and you don't. They're all any of the 3 could be, a killer or a red herring, and it's there, but you don't. It's not the seed. Again, the seed is planted, but it's never let to grow. And essentially the film just goes through the motions. It doesn't really deliver the tension. It doesn't deliver the scares. It really needed to deliver the scares. And the first half of the movie where, these scares would have been developed. For somebody who's not into horror movies and gets scared easily, yeah, okay. This film might creep you out. If you are into horror movies in general, you'd watch it and be like, okay, what's going on? This isn't scary. And then you eventually get to the action portions of the film, where it's more of a survival and the fighting and such. And yeah. It's okay. It doesn't really. It's hard to say. There's a lot of problems in the film. you'd like to say that a lot of it is in the acting, but honestly, I think it's more to do with it, with what's going on. You can only do so much as an actor with what you've got, and if the dialogue and the situation is one thing, it's hard to turn it into something else. It's not impossible, but it is hard, and without having an amazing cast who obviously has the skills to do that, you really are dependent on the director and the writer, and then if that goes to crap, then hopefully the editor and the sound design can help. And really, I'd say the editing and the sound design are probably two of the only real reasons why there's anything really going on in this film, because most of the rest of it is just, yeah, it's a lot of people being scared for no reason, essentially. I understand being scared when there's something to be scared about, and I understand there's being scared when you're by yourself and you can get scared, but it didn't translate very well, and it could have been a lot better, and that's unfortunate, because there is, the story as a whole isn't terrible, but it's not good. It could have used a lot of, well, it was just, there was nothing new. There's nothing new. It was like, oh, I've seen all movies before, and this is what they do, so I'm gonna do a movie that has that in it. So honestly, I would say give Solo a pass, unless you're really, really curious. I wish I could be kinder, and find some reason to recommend this film, because I want to support the Canadian horror filmmakers and such, but yeah, when it comes to Solo, yeah, sorry, it's the best I can do. So yeah, that's today, and I'm gonna be moving on, going to bed. So take care, and yeah, I'll see you tomorrow, because I got some more movies to watch. Movies. Good night.